Ladies and gentlemen, everyone wants trust. Everyone talks about it, but almost no one truly understands what it takes to build it and what it costs to lose it. Trust isn't built by charm, by words, or by image. It's built by consistency, by integrity, by showing up when it's hard, and doing the right thing when no one's watching. In a world full of filters, hype, and highlight reels, trust has become rare. And that's exactly why it's powerful. If people don't trust you, they won't follow you, they won't buy from you, they won't open up to you. You could have all the talent, the credentials, the perfect message, but if trust is missing, none of it lands. So the real question is not just, do people like me, but do they believe me? Because trust isn't given, it's earned. And today we're going to talk about how you earn it, how you break it, and how you become the kind of person people don't just listen to. You didn't fall short because you lacked intelligence. You didn't fail because life was unfair. And you didn't fail because you didn't put in the effort. You failed because people didn't trust you. And if that's hard to hear, good, because truth is the starting point of growth. Trust is everything. It's the backbone of leadership, the glue of relationships, the fuel for careers, businesses, and lasting legacies. Without trust, your skills don't matter. Without it, your words carry no weight. Without it, your vision remains invisible. And here's the uncomfortable truth most won't admit. If your life feels stuck, it might be because people don't trust you, at least not yet. Let's be honest. You promised to follow through, but didn't. You said you'd be on time, but weren't. You claimed you'd stay consistent, but fell short. You said, I've got this, then disappeared when it mattered most. And now you wonder why people are distant, why they stop reaching out, why they smile but keep their distance, why they listen but never invest. It's not because they're against you, it's because they don't believe you. And belief is something earned through action, through repetition, one choice at a time. So ask yourself honestly, what's it like to trust you? Are you the kind of person others can count on with their time, their money, their trust, their name? Or are you all talk, no follow through? Because trust isn't built through hype or big claims. It's not about flashy words or polished images. It's built quietly, through integrity, through what you do when no one's watching, through how you respond when things get hard, through keeping your word, even when it costs you. If people can't trust your yes or your no, they'll never trust your bigger vision. And maybe that's the real reason the opportunity didn't come. Not because you didn't deserve it, but because you weren't ready for the responsibility. Because if you can't be trusted with the little things, how can you be trusted with more? Here's a truth you rarely hear. Trust isn't a feeling, it's your reputation. And reputation is what people say when you're not around. So what do they say? Do they describe you as dependable, steady under pressure, consistent without being loud? Do they say you deliver without overpromising or underdelivering? Or do they say something else? Unreliable, all talk, friendly, but inconsistent, disappears when needed most. Your name carries weight, whether light or heavy, is up to you. Because trust is your true brand. Not your content, not your pitch, not your appearance, but your character. And here's what dreamers are rarely told. Your goals won't become reality until you become the kind of person who can be trusted with them. So build trust. Build it when it's dull, build it when you're exhausted. Build it when no one's paying attention. A weak mind says, this is too difficult. A strong mind says, this is how I grow. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes valuable feedback. Every rejection becomes fuel. And when you stop running from discomfort, you stop running from your own strength. Growth doesn't come through comfort. It's forged in the fires of struggle and perseverance. Step 2 is about taking full control of your input. You can't develop a strong mind with weak thoughts. Just like you can't build a healthy body with junk food. If your mental space is filled with gossip, fear, noise, and constant comparison, it becomes impossible to think clearly, act boldly, or create anything meaningful. A strong mind doesn't let everything in. It acts like a guarded gate, filtering, selecting, and fiercely protecting its peace. Because once your attention is hijacked, your clarity disappears. And without clarity, there's no leadership, no progress, and no foundation to build on. You want mental strength. Begin by mastering what you take in. Choose what you watch carefully. Be intentional with what you listen to. And be selective about who you allow to influence your thoughts. You don't have to cut everyone off, but you do have to protect your mind, because your thoughts are shaped by what you consume, and your life is shaped by your thoughts. Step 3, train your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. Distraction isn't dangerous because it's loud. It's dangerous because it's subtle. It doesn't destroy you all at once, it chips away. One scroll at a time, one notification at a time, one delay, one mental tab left open too long. Before you realize it, your mind no longer belongs to you. It belongs to whatever demands your attention most. But a strong mind is different. It doesn't just focus, it ruthlessly focuses. Because where your focus goes, your life follows. Where your attention flows, your identity takes shape. And if you don't take control of your focus, the world will do it for you. If you want to leave mediocrity behind, then commit. Block off time when you're unreachable. Turn down the digital noise. Silence the world so you can hear yourself think. Build the mental endurance to stay focused long after others give up. Because this world doesn't need more people with ideas. It needs more people with the discipline to execute them. Focus is not something you're born with. It's something you train. And the more you train it, the less room you give to doubt, drama, and distraction. Over time, that focus becomes part of who you are. Others might not fully understand it, but they'll respect it. Because when you're anchored, you can't be manipulated, shaken, or pulled into chaos. You stand firm. Step 4, make your word law. If you say you'll do something, do it. Even if no one sees. Even if no one claps. Even if you're the only one holding yourself to that standard, because a weak mind negotiates with itself. A strong mind executes. It doesn't wait to feel like it. It doesn't beg for motivation. It moves because it made a commitment. Discipline isn't punishment. It's self-respect. When your word becomes law, you stop chasing confidence, you embody it. You no longer need to convince others of your strength. Your actions speak louder than any words ever could. Your consistency becomes your credibility. And finally, let's bring it all together, because mental strength doesn't end at discipline. It grows into something even more powerful, emotional mastery. Step 5, master your emotions or they will master you. Understand this, your mind cannot be strong if your emotions control your decisions. Emotional strength doesn't mean shutting down or becoming distant. It means ownership. It means feeling fear and moving forward anyway. Feeling pressure and remaining calm, carrying the weight and not collapsing under it. A weak mind reacts, a strong mind responds. It sees the storm and chooses how to sail through it. It doesn't scream at the waves, it finds a way forward. That's the difference. And that's the kind of strength that changes everything. If you want real power, then don't let anger be your voice. Don't let fear drive your decisions. Don't let disappointment close you off. Instead, develop emotional strength. Pause, observe, breathe, before you react. Take ownership of your inner world so completely that no external event can disrupt your peace. Because when you learn to manage your emotions, you become unshakable. You become calm in chaos. The eye of the storm. You become the still presence in a world addicted to noise and reaction. And that kind of calm, that inner control, unsettles people because it shows them what's possible when someone chooses to do the inner work. Step 6, choose solitude over distraction. Most people can't sit quietly with themselves. They constantly seek noise, these screens, chatter, and distractions, because silence exposes the truths they've been avoiding. But a strong mind seeks solitude. It embraces stillness, not because it's easy, but because that's where clarity lives. Silence sharpens vision. Solitude introduces you to your true self. If you want to be different, if you want to stand out, be the one who's comfortable being alone, the one who doesn't need validation to feel worthy, the one who can step away and come back sharper, focused, and refined. That kind of person doesn't just enter a room, they change it. They lead not by volume, but by example. They shift energy simply by being present. And finally, step 7, think long-term, act every day. The strongest minds are driven by vision. They don't rely on instant results to stay committed. They don't chase applause. They plant deep roots and build slowly because they're not chasing quick wins. They're building something that lasts. They move with urgency, but not panic. They work with pace, but not desperation. They know where they're going, and that clarity makes them immune to pressure. Nothing can rush a mind that's already made a clear decision. So build that kind of mind, brick by brick, habit by habit, thought by thought. And one day, you won't have to say anything. Your presence will speak for you. You won't enter rooms to impress. You'll enter because you've built something steady, solid, and undeniable. Not loud, not flashy, just unshakable. And that level of mental strength, it doesn't just win, it redefines what real power looks like. Most people think speaking is about the words, but it's not. Speaking is about power. The power to move emotions, the power to spark belief, the power to take something invisible in your mind and make it real for others. Speaking isn't just a communication skill. It's a superpower. When mastered, it doesn't just deliver a message, it commands attention, not through volume or pressure, but through presence. Because people won't remember every word you say, but they will remember how you made them feel. Mastering the art of speaking means learning to create that feeling, to speak in a way that makes people listen, that stops the scroll, that holds attention, that moves hearts, not by hype, but by truth, not through noise, but through clarity, not with tricks, but with resonance. And the first step is realizing that your real voice doesn't come from your throat, it comes from your conviction. You don't need to sound like anyone else. You don't need perfect grammar or flawless tone. You need alignment. When your message matches your energy, when your heart fuels your words, when your belief outweighs your fear, then you become unstoppable. Because great speaking isn't about performing. It's about alignment. It's not about sounding smart. It's about sounding real. And when you sound real, people feel it. They don't just hear your message. They see themselves in it. That's when it becomes powerful. That's when you stop talking at people and start speaking into them. Because real speaking isn't about giving information. It's about creating transformation. You're not here to impress. You're here to impact, to speak in a way that shifts something inside the person listening, to speak in a way that makes someone whisper to themselves, I can't go back to who I was before I heard that. And to do that, you must speak with intention, not from what's polished, not from what's rehearsed, but from what's real. Speak from your scars, not your script. Speak from your lived experience, not your ego. Speak from the pain you've survived, the wisdom you've earned, the lessons you've bled to learn. That's the voice people follow. That's the voice that transforms rooms. And once you realize that power doesn't live in the words alone, but in the energy behind them, you begin to speak differently. You stop chasing perfection and start cultivating presence. You stop rehearsing to impress and start grounding yourself in truth. Because your voice doesn't need to be loud to be felt. It just needs to be real. That's what makes people stop scrolling. That's what cuts through the noise. That's what lands straight in the chest. Great speakers aren't remembered because they said what everyone else said. They're remembered because they meant every word. Because you could feel their story even in their silence. Because their pauses had weight. Because their breath carried belief. Because they didn't demand attention, they commanded respect. Here's your next shift. Your voice carries your identity. You cannot master speaking until you master yourself, because people don't just hear your words, they feel your alignment. If you doubt yourself, your voice will tremble. If you hide your truth, your message will hesitate. But when you stand in who you are fully, when you own your value, your vision, your voice, your words start to land with power. Confidence doesn't come from what you've memorized. It comes from what you've integrated, from what you've lived. Confidence is the echo of alignment. It's the inner voice that says, this isn't theory, this is who I am. And when your voice reflects that, you don't have to push to be heard. People lean in because they can't ignore what feels real. Let's talk rhythm. Because how you deliver is as important as what you deliver. Speaking is music. It has tone, it has pace, it has breath and beat. Great speakers don't just talk, they compose. They understand the power of tension and release. They use silence as punctuation. They don't rush to fill the space. They let the message breathe. Because silence, when used intentionally, doesn't lose attention. It deepens it. Your job is not to pour out everything you know. Your job is to deliver one truth, clearly, cleanly, confidently, so that it roots itself in the heart of the listener and stays there. That's how real impact happens. Not through volume, not through speed, but through precision. You don't need to speak faster, you need to speak truer. You don't need to sound smarter, you need to sound clearer. You don't need more words, you need more weight behind the ones you already have. That's how you master your voice. That's how you turn your speaking from a tool into a force. Because the greatest speakers aren't the ones who say the most, they're the ones who feel the deepest and dare to let others feel it too. If your words are polished but your soul is guarded, you'll be heard but never remembered. You'll be acknowledged but never felt. But when you speak with vulnerability, raw, honest, human, you don't just connect, you create trust. And in speaking, trust is everything. It's what opens hearts, it's what drops walls, it's what turns a message into a moment someone remembers forever. So speak from your wounds, not just your wins. Speak from the nights you almost gave up, because that's where the power is. That's where your voice becomes unforgettable. Speak from the fears you outgrew. Speak from the loneliness you sat in when no one clapped, no one called, and you still chose to rise. People don't follow perfection. They follow realness. They follow the voice that dares to be human in a world addicted to masks. And when you bring your whole self to the mic, not just your highlight reel, people feel safe to do the same in their own lives. That's where your influence expands. When your voice becomes more than words, it becomes permission to hope, permission to change, permission to be seen. And the key to unlocking that kind of power, storytelling. Because story is the language of the heart. Facts may inform the mind, but stories, they move the soul. The brain might forget your steps, your strategies, your formulas, but it will never forget how your story made them feel at that one moment of honesty, of pain, of truth, of laughter. That is what stays, that's what spreads. So tell your stories not for applause, but for connection, not to shine, but to serve. Share the stumbles, the doubts, the tiny victories, the quiet turning points. Paint pictures with your words. Let people see the movie in their mind, not just hear the bullet points of your success. Because when someone sees themselves in your struggle, they trust your guidance. They don't just listen, they follow. But it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Your emotional range is your greatest asset. Too many speakers sound robotic, flat, rehearsed, soulless. But you're not here to recite, you're here to resonate. Use your voice like a symphony, not for drama, but for depth. Let your passion rise, let your truth drop. Match your tone to the moment. Speak from fire when fire is needed. Speak from stillness when stillness is called for. Because your voice can punch like thunder or whisper like prayer. And both can be unforgettable when they come from truth. And here's what you must understand. People don't follow the most polished speaker, they follow the most honest one, the most present one, the most grounded one, the one who stands in front of the room or the camera or the world and does not flinch, not because they know everything, but because they've lived what they speak. That's the voice the world is starving for. So listen closely now, because this is where it all converges. This is where speaking becomes more than a skill, it becomes your signature. Your fingerprint on every room you enter, your echo in every life you touch. You see, most people speak to be remembered, but the masters, they speak to remind people of who they are, of what they forgot, of the power that's been buried beneath fear and silence. Your job is not just to share information. Your job is to awaken something inside them that's been asleep. Your words are not decoration, they are activation. And if you want your voice to live beyond the moment, beyond the platform, beyond the applause, then speak from a place deeper than performance. Speak from purpose. Because when you speak with purpose, you don't need to sell. You don't need to shout. You don't need to convince. Your presence becomes permission. And people follow that, not because you ask, but because they felt called. That's what true speaking does. It calls people forward. Out of fear, out of stagnation, out of mediocrity, and into motion, into clarity, into transformation. That's what your voice is capable of. And when you realize that, when you fully accept the responsibility of your voice, you will never speak the same again. Every sentence becomes sacred. Every pause becomes powerful. Every story becomes a vessel. And you become the channel. You don't own the message. You carry it, you deliver it, you protect it. Because somewhere, someone is waiting to hear the exact words you've been called to speak. And it might not be perfect. It might not go viral, but it might be the moment that changes everything for them. So speak with courage, speak with clarity, speak with fire, speak like it matters, because it does. Your voice is not a tool, it's a torch. And the world is full of people walking through darkness, not because they lack talent, but because they've never heard a voice that reminded them of their own light. Be that voice, because when it's all said and done, no one will remember every word you spoke, but they will remember how your words moved them, how they walked away a little taller, a little clearer, a little more alive. That is the true mastery of speaking, not just to impress, but to ignite, not just to be heard, but to be felt, not just to communicate, but to elevate. That is your gift, that is your power, that is your legacy. Use it well. At the end of the day, trust is not built by accident, it's built by design. It's not about saying the right words, it's about living the right values. People remember how you made them feel, not just what you said. And when your actions align with your words, when your presence brings safety, when your consistency becomes your credibility, that's when trust becomes unshakable. So if you're serious about impact, about leadership, about building something that lasts, you have to ask yourself one question: can people count on you when it counts most? Because in a world that's starved for something real, trust isn't just your advantage, it's your legacy.